you are gonna see some cool ass shit.
Yeah, you don't want two Flavor Flays.
Heart transplants, brain surgeries. I've seen it all.
Dude, that's fucking dope.
Walk up and just get it, whatever it is.
Yeah, brother.
I'm trying not to laugh, bro, but Josh is fucking killing me.
Guess what Navy SEALs do, motherfucker? They communicate and they're on the same fucking page.
Whoa.
3, 2, 1. We're rolling.
Welcome, everybody, to the Happy Hoodlums podcast. It's another week with your boy, the Happy Hoodlum himself, Mr. Kemper Woodruff, and the very strong, very powerful, always ready, Mr. Zach Sampson, looking like a meat castle in the house.
You fucking know, baby. You fucking know.
Yeah. He's getting me a little more pumped for this podcast. You know, I was in a little bit of a mental funk, but, you know, just different raw shit in life. You know, sometimes you get kicked in the dick and you just got to figure out that, like, it's all for the betterment, you know? And it's how you take that shit and what you do about it, you know?
Facts.
And we've talked on the podcast before about how when shit starts getting, like, hard for you, that's when all the things that you're striving to do, right, begin to fall off, and you just see what your, like, bare bones of your programming are, you know? And that's kind of a good marker for how far you've evolved, is how fast you can push momentum, because it means that things are streamlined and it's not, you know, it's not that it isn't a difficult task, but a difficult task that has become normalized has now integrated to your program, and you're not running hard to get it done, even if you do it. You don't have to battle yourself to get yourself to do it. Yeah. I guess is what I'm saying. And so, you know, even like doing the podcast, sometimes, like, when you're going through, like, real emotional life fucking shit, like, you know, being hit with, like, yo, I don't want to be with you, I'd rather co-parent with you. Mm-hmm. Like, that's some shit that that shit hurts, you know, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that's ever been through that, you know. But accepting an experience and just determining, you know, like, fuck it, I'm gonna show up anyways, you know. Like, and I realized that, like, commitment is pain, you know, and what you're willing to do while you're in pain is what you're really committed to. Yeah. You know, when it's inconvenient for you to be doing it, you know, shit like when my dad died, and it's like, fuck that, bro, we're still doing a podcast, you know? Yeah. And life is just going to keep happening, but it's like, not only what you do about it, it's happening for you. And learning how to, like, talk to yourself in those moments of adversity is, like, where you find out how developed you are. And I think we were talking about dignity on the podcast like a few episodes back with Leslie Valentine. It was a really good episode for anyone.
It was amazing.
Yeah. But we were talking about dignity as, like, how you handle yourself while being disrespected, I guess, so to say, you know, or just mishandled, you know. It's not always meaning that disrespect is coming from the other person, but when the situation's just got you fucked up, you know what I mean? And you're like, nah, this is not what I wanted. Like, this isn't who I am. Well, in fact, who you are is what you do when it didn't go the way that you expected, how you wanted it, you know? Mm-hmm. And so, you know, like, and I apologize to anyone watching if sometimes it's like, hey, what the fuck? Why is he kind of dodging this, inputting this, not inputting that?
Fuck him. Just, you're doing your thing, bro.
Well, I try to be conscious of, like, what I want to share, because I know that words, you can't take words back, right? Like, and people, this is a lot of people don't understand. People will take you for your word. If you present yourself like one way, like, that's what the fuck you are to them at a certain point, you know? and they're gonna check you over this time period. And like, so I want to be authentic in the shit that I say and give people the reality of what a situation is. But I'm hesitant while I'm going through it because I haven't seen the other side of it yet. You know what I mean? I don't want to be that motherfucker giving out too much advice preemptively.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe to avoid that, just wait. Talk about the situations that you are more willing to be open about. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, so that way it doesn't feel like you're not being genuine or you're feel like you're skating around stuff. But at the same time, you got to remember, this is me and you. Fuck all those other people. You're talking to me, bitch. Like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, so like, share with me what you want to share. Be conscious of be conscious of what you're saying so that you don't put out things that you don't necessarily want people to know yet. But at the same time, this is me and you. Right?
Yeah.
So
well, don't call me a bitch, motherfucker.
Hey, I'm gonna call you a bitch when you're being a bitch.
Fair enough. So, no, like, I guess commitment and pain, right?
Yeah.
Also has purpose tied into it, you know, and purpose is revealed over time. You know, you don't get to fucking just know the purpose of something in the beginning. You have to earn purpose.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's something that I'm gathering more respect for, especially like the more that that I exercise, and the more that I'm willing to like go through hard shit without coping with it the way I used to. Because I used to smoke so much fucking weed, bro. Like, and it just got to the point where like I had so much pain that I would just smoke blunt after blunt after blunt after blunt after blunt, and it was hurting me physically and financially. You know, I wasn't eating enough.
Yeah, you were doing it to like numb your mind so that you didn't even have to think about it really.
Yeah,
so you
and
weren't
I couldn't
even really coping with it. It was more like you were just hiding from it, just trying to escape it.
Yeah, and it was my default programming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think it's also you're trying to get a deep breath. You know, people talk a lot about like what breath work can do for you and meditation, and it's real because it does circulate like your life energy.
Yeah.
It's all predicated on your breath. And I think that's part of what makes exercising so good for you, you know, is just actually flowing your energy and grounding you out of your consciousness into your body. And your body simultaneously releases chemicals that give you that like validation of praise, you know, and appreciation for what you have, rather than looking at really what you think you don't have. You don't know shit about what the experience is going to be like until you're through it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think part of this whole like man the fuck up and just do it is understanding where you're being childish, you know? It's fucking childish to me now when I look at things that I dodged for so many years, even though it was right in my face. You know, it was like I would do anything I could to weasel my way fucking around having to deal with this shit that I knew that I had to do. And it all comes back to self-image. You know, like my self-image was fucked up, you know? And learning to like really understand that you are who you said you were all along. And all this time in this process is just revealing it, you know? And so you have to take this current, and I think heartbreak is really like life doesn't break your heart, it breaks your character, you know? And you fall in love with this essence of yourself and this definition that you have of yourself. Because once that shit breaks, you have to redefine everything all over again. Everything finds a new form.
I feel like it's my perspective of it is rather than life breaking your character, it's finding the parts of your character that need to be fixed. So it's not necessarily breaking it, it's revealing what's lacking.
Yeah.
and it might just be like clearing out of the mist. Like, um, one thing that I realized from my last relationship, right, was that
Mm-hmm.
I was clearly not dealing with past breakups the way that I should have been. I
Mm.
wasn't I wasn't looking at what different insecurities they built inside of me and things like that. And then those insecurities came to the forefront in my last relationship. And I was like, "Oh shit, okay, I wasn't dealing with those heartbreaks, those breakups as well as I thought I was." And so it wasn't that this relationship broke my character, it showed me where I could improve it. And so I
Do
think
you?
what? Go ahead.
So, go ahead and finish your thought. I know what I'm gonna ask.
No,
Uh,
I instantly forgot where I was going. It's okay.
I apologize, bro. Do you think there's a difference between acceptance and transcendence,
Um,
or even like a correlation between the two?
well, I think you have to accept something. Like the ability to accept a situation for what it is and look at it and learn from it is I think an aspect, if not uh the main stepping stone to transcending something. Right? So like if you can accept, okay, I broke up with this person and we're not getting back together. These are my next few steps. That's your acceptance to transcend that situation in my
Mm-hmm.
eyes. So like, well, I guess that's the best example, right? So it's like with my last breakup, I took the time, I processed it, and then I realized, okay, I'm accepting the fact that we're not getting back together, and I am also accepting the fact that this was probably the best result that we could have asked for from that relationship. It was either going to end on a decent note that the way it did, or it was going to end super toxic. And fortunately, it ended pretty decently. And that's my level of acceptance to be able to transcend that and then be able to move on. Right? So now I have no ill feelings. I don't need that relationship back. I appreciate all the lessons and all the things that I experienced during that time, but I don't need it anymore. And I've
Yeah.
moved on. I transcended it into being a whole new person, really, like honestly, romantically and emotionally, uh, in an emotional, intelligent way. I've transcended because of that whole experience.
Well, we'll find out more once you're in your next one.
Yeah, for real. But I to be completely real with you, like, bro, because of that, I've learned how to communicate my needs in a relationship. I know what
Mhm.
I need in a relationship, and I know that if someone's not able or will, and I actually know how to find the people and like spot what I need from somebody before I even really talk to them.
Mm.
And like as I'm talking to them, now I know how to ask the questions
So how do
to
you go
see.
about doing that?
Well, okay, first, what I do,
Other than asking questions,
yeah.
other than asking.
So,
Yeah.
well, asking questions, um, but I look at like, okay, so for example, the majority of how I find people to talk to in that sense is on dating apps, right? So it's a little different. I'm not as socially skilled as a lot of people, like going out and meeting people, right? So I do it that way. And so what you get on a dating app is you literally get what's important to them in their profile, right? If they cared about how they put their profile together, that's that what is important is showing up, right? So the first thing I look at is uh if they have friend groups, right? How are they positioning themselves with other people? What's the environment that they're in? Is it a bar, right? I don't want someone who goes out to a bar all the time. So I'm probably not going to like if all their pictures are with friend groups at a bar, that's someone I'm not really interested in being with because bars aren't my scene. So boom,
Yeah.
instantly that's something that just doesn't correlate with me. And then looking through that, but the questions thing, what I ask people first is like, my opening question is, what's the most important, or yeah, what's your favorite thing about your life right now? And what that shows me is what's important to them. The most important thing to them in their life right now. So like a lot of people say like their pets or their friends or their family or their job. And then from there I'll break it down, and then I'll even ask, what are your goals right now in life? And so find those two questions have actually helped me find really quality people to talk to.
Mm.
Like real quick. And
It's cool.
I've also come to the realization like I'm a little needy in a relationship. So I need response time. Like you have to respond. And so if someone takes 2 days to respond, I'm probably just gonna fucking get rid of that, because that doesn't
Bro,
work for me.
I'm trying not to get into that mode where it's like, because I'm so okay with like, and so proud of myself and like going to the gym,
Mm-hmm.
and just like, it makes me feel so much better to be at the gym than to be in pain.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, I know
Like, and
exactly
I
what
got
that feels like.
so much shit going on that it's like, I'm trying hard not to fucking be mean mugging all the time. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, I
Where it's like,
know.
I actually notice my fucking, because I've always been like a smiley, happy person.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And I think in high school was probably the closest phase that I had to this. But at that time, I was like immature and like overly confrontational.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Because I was always that way. But ever since like I got Jesus in my life and I really learned about like shit that sticks with me,
mm-hmm.
you know? And you can call it like your karma, you know? But uh the way that I felt about things in my own behavior changed completely, you know? So it's like this lens of like everyone else being bad when I was younger turned into like me being bad all the time,
Yeah,
you know? And now I've gotten myself to this point where I was doing like so fucking good, and I know I'm still doing good. So like, my keep it real meter is still like there, and
mm-hmm.
I know when it's like, bro, I'm just being a bitch. I'm tripping right now. You know what I mean? And I start looking for things that make me happy within myself, almost, because so much shit outside of myself, you know, situationally, other than like, dude, I have a house. It's a nice little house, and you know, there's a lot of shit going well for me, you know, so I
Yeah,
know that I'd be tripping.
yeah.
But
Well, I mean, like, here's the thing though. Like, it's okay to feel emotions, right? And I know you know that. Um, and what a lot of people tend to do, and now this is a really good skill if you're feeling, if you have an overwhelming sense of like despair for too long, right? So to avoid long-term stretches of emotional shit, that strategy is good. Like being grateful for the things that are around you, like your house. You got a car to drive. A lot, even though it's kind of beat up, it's fucking a car, and a lot of people don't have a car. So like
I love it,
having,
so my
yeah,
life
your car's
is
fucking awesome. But like what I'm saying is like having that gratefulness is awesome, but using it to avoid even short-term emotional uh processing, uh what I've learned, because I do it all the time still, and I'm working through it, is like you don't want to do that. Don't avoid, like, it's okay to be like, damn, bro, I feel this shit right now. And it's okay to be like, I want this, but I can't have it. And you don't have to be like, well, other people have it worse than me, so I shouldn't be feeling bad.
I'm not rationalizing the shit. I'm like, bro, there's a level of like unresolved and like overwhelming fucking rage. You know what I mean? That it's like I'm also realizing is like how I handle that. It's like that's the test.
Okay.
You know, like it took all this shit to get me to this point, you know,
Yeah.
where it's like, and you know, the weird thing that I think is like the next level of transcendence from the relationship and like being a man is still taking care of that person. Like if you really truly love them, you know, and I'm in this place where it's like I'm kind of in a limbo state, you know,
Yeah.
but I also like the standard that I hold myself to, and this is just it comes from my upbringing, and like I've always felt like I should be able to handle everything. Like the whole thing that got me into like selling weed, other than wanting to fucking smoke for free, was like ever since I was a child, I really hated that my mom had to work.
Yeah.
You know? Like I was like I hated seeing them struggle for bills, and I was like, dude, I want like everyone that's ever taken care of me in my life to be good off of just me. Like I know I'm that level of like that caliber of person where my success is gonna be so fucking opulent and incredible that it's like I want to take care of everyone. You know, like everyone's good. And I've it's just driven me to this point where it's like, although I have that and I still hold that standard in my mind, like I'm gonna get to that fucking standard. But what do I do right now? You know? And right now it's like determining that I'm having an interesting time, and it's difficult at times determining what kind of man I want to be as I go through it. And it's interesting because I'm like observing, and I've talked about this before, taking the role of the observer, and that
Mhm.
our spirit is just having this journey, you know, this conscious journey to experience things and looking at things and being like, so that's what it feels like. So that's what it feels like to have your heart broke, you know, or just different shit like that, you know. Um, but deciding actively the man I want to be as I go through it is it's a process,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm not willing to be away from it anymore. I'm not smoking weed like I was anymore. I don't really drink because I've seen what that does to people that I fucking love,
Same.
you know.
Yeah.
And
I've been sober for almost I think 2 months or a little over 2 months now. Um, and I feel the best I've ever felt mentally. That's for a fact. Like, as much as it's fun to do in the like moderately, it's not something that I even look for now. Like I don't even really have the desire to do it because I feel so good doing all the other shit that I do in my life. You know?
in in a strange way, like I'm such an extreme person, that I'm like the joy I get from the gym, the
Mhm.
kind of thought process I've had is like, fuck it, bro. I'll just go get the truck back from my mom and buy a little shell over the back of it, live in the truck, and all I do is work out. And I'm like, that's the kind of like fucking thinking that I get. And then I go, whoa, 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 whoa. I've been working really hard on my
Yeah,
real
that's
estate,
extreme.
and it's like
Yeah.
extreme. Like, and so I guess one of the things I'm looking at is we have this human nature
Mhm.
and we never get rid of it. But like, how do we work with it, and how do we create balance within it? You know,
Yeah.
because I think our personality holds that purpose, and so being committed really means being committed to yourself. You know, and the character of yourself, and being willing to go through the pain that you need to endure for that purpose to be expressed through your journey. You know,
Yeah.
and continue. I know you got something to say.
Well, I mean, it's because what you just said was like you got to focus on yourself type thing. So I actually was
Mhm.
writing down as you said that. Focus on yourself to be successful. And you were talking earlier, just like 5 minutes ago, about you knowing your level of success is going to be something that you will achieve, to be able to take care of the people in your life. But you were
Mhm.
asking, how do you do that? And I was going to say, it's focusing on yourself, right? Because right now you're in the building phase. And if your whole building phase is about giving out your resources, well, that's not going to help you get successful. It's going to keep you from building the building that you want to build because you no longer have resources, right? And so sparingly give where you need, but knowing that these resources that you have right now, you need to have to build your empire, right? And so focusing on yourself to an extent so that one, you have the ability to sit there and audit yourself and sorry, I'm still getting over the sickness. But audit yourself and be like, so that's how that feels.
Yeah.
You can learn about all these different things because you still have the mental bandwidth to give yourself time rather than giving all of your time and all of your other resources to other people.
Well, I
And
also look at
yeah,
it like being a very generous person require like if generosity is your nature, it
hmm,
requires a lot of discernment, you know?
yeah,
And like part of that whole like being a man shit is like when there's a baby involved or something, like you might have limited resources, but like there's a woman and child in need like right now, like and so going back to that extremist kind of tendency, I look at even my generosity is like extreme. I'm extremely generous with my time and my love and my energy, my money, all that kind of shit. And so um it's also helped me to realize how powerful I am and that I need very little,
yeah.
you know?
Let me.
Although I have shit, I need very little to actually be functional because I've functioned without. Like the past 2 years, I've just fucking been going,
Yeah.
you know?
Let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
How far? Sorry. How far does your generosity go? Or sorry. Uh, Let me think about how to ask this question. Um, when do the lines of generosity and disrespect cross to where you no longer are willing to give because the disrespect is so high?
Oh,
Having an extreme generosity can lead you to suffering through a lot of disrespect. And when we've talked about being a man, we've also talked about how to handle disrespect and that can't be accepted. We've said that on the podcast. So
yeah.
when do those two intersect when one becomes too much for the other?
Upholding righteousness is a difficult thing because, like, I've always said, my definition of love is like wherever you draw that line of like that's how far I'm willing to go.
Mhm.
Like love exists on the other side of it. And I guess the weird thing is dealing with like I don't some people aren't bad, they just have bad habits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And everyone has the capacity for great good and great evil. And I almost look at it like what am I held accountable for? Well, that's me, right? What
Mhm.
I do about it, you know? And so I think it's almost like a case by case basis. I wish I could say there's black and white. Like you need to call people on shit. And that's where that discernment comes in is like, is this a moment where like they want this thing that I have? Like maybe someone wants something that could make it easier.
Yeah.
But what they really need in that moment is to learn the hardship of not having that shit, you know? And so it takes time and keen observation of patterns and character traits, um, and trusting your heart on it, you know? But in terms of accountability, I really just look at who I want to be and I play it by ear because again, me being generous and me seeing things like when you realize that you're infinite, it's like an L can't really fade you at a certain point. You know, like I've taken some devastating shots, bro, in my lifetime, and like somehow it's just always made me better. And I just realized I'm that motherfucker that gets better through pain.
Yeah.
You know,
Same.
I get fucking for whatever reason. When you put pain on me, bro, I get creative as fuck. Like you see me turn into a machine, and so I guess what I'm learning to navigate is like, and especially when it comes to love, because I'm such an extremely deep lover, you know, and loyal, that I look at the shit and I go, you know, like, how do I how do I not hurt the next person like and treat them the way I wanted to be treated and what I know is right, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And not turn into that motherfucker that's like absolutely ghost somebody, you know, or treat people like they're expendable, you know?
Yeah.
Because that to me is like a sign of weakness. And that's when that karmic cycle comes back. And now it's like you're on the other side. It's like you find someone who's totally fucking narcissistic and you're more codependent. So you're just fucking giving and loving and doing all this shit, you know? And then the scales tip. And all of a sudden you get abused long enough, you start abusing the next person and you turn into the fucking narcissist in that relationship because you're like, never again.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm dealing with that mastery of balance of being like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do what I choose. And part of that is like, I think going back to the system and not choosing too soon. Shout out to fucking Shipman. Brian Shipman that was on this podcast. And like, he was one of the earliest episodes, our second guest. He was a captain of a fleet of like
Navy
U.S. like
captain. A battle
yeah
destroyer.
Navy destroyers and
Yeah.
shit. Yeah, and he said, "Don't make a decision too hastily if you don't have to. You know, like let the shit play out a little bit, and keep running your program. Keep with your fucking plan, and watch the shit play out. You know, and when you see that it's like a decisive moment, that's when you act. You know,
Yeah.
and
Go ahead, sorry.
yeah, go on.
I was just gonna say I like that because in the last book of leadership that I was reading called Battle Tested, it's about the Battle of Gettysburg. It talks about how the most valuable resource for a leader is time, right? And it's knowing when to make a decision and when a decision needs to be made quickly or it can be like have time to make it, right? And Brian Shipman being like in battle, not necessarily in battle, but being a leader of an army or army individuals. I don't fucking whatever the words. Anyways, fucking words are hard. I'm tired. Anyways, being a leader in a military setting, he know like time is important in that situation, whether it's giving it time or making a quick decision, because sometimes you have to. Um, but I wanted to go back and talk about what you were talking about in terms of like how do you not treat people the way that you were treated, rather than treating them the way that you choose to treat them. right? And so in my head, and I've always told people this, and I've always told myself this, uh, I'm not going to allow the way I was treated to change the way that I will treat others, because then that becomes, or that makes that the person that hurt me, they become my master at that point. If I allow them to change me so dramatically that it deviates my character to the point I'm not treating people good anymore, right? And so what I also tell people is I have trust issues. I'm straight up about that. I have trust issues, but what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to put that on you. I might ask you questions, but I'm never going to accuse you of something. Right? I'm never going to be like, "Oh, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this, you're doing that," and treat you badly because I don't trust you. Right?
Mhm.
I'm going to come to you when I feel like I need a little bit of reassurance, and I'm not going to make a big deal about it. I'm not going to make you feel bad, and I'm not going to treat you like shit, right? Um and it's a thing that I learned from Mike Tyson watching a clip of his, was that if you allow yourself to get angry because of something someone else did, they become your master. You become their slave, right? And I don't fuck with that. And so what I've started to do is look at, like, I'm only going to allow the pain that I experience to make me a better person, and use it to know how to treat people better, because I know what being treated like shit feels like. And this is a slight deviation, and this is where this thought will end. Um, Something that I've heard a lot is that uh, you need religion to know how to treat people and to have good morals. And the reason I completely disagree with that is because all you need to know about how to treat people is to be treated like shit. And you know what that feels like. You know you don't want to feel like that. And if you're any type of decent human being, you don't want other people to feel like that. Because the majority of people are not trying to make you feel bad. The majority of people do not want you to feel like shit. And they do not want to be the source of your shit feelings. Right? And
Mhm.
so I'm going to expand even further. When people talk about how they don't like this group or that group, especially nowadays, and because of how shitty these specific people might make them feel. Um, like, for example, like the anti-man crowd, right? The people who say kill all men or hate all men, or the people who talk shit on the gay community or whatever, right? These people are feeling feelings, but they're such a small, compact, loud group. And the only reason most people are feeling that effect is because of how loud they are. But they're a minority. The people who are screaming the loudest are legitimately a minority compared to the general population. And so I see a lot of people saying, like, I hate this generation because, right? But if you go out and you talk to anybody on the fucking street and you interact with anybody in your daily life, the majority of people are not acting like that. They're not out to treat people like shit, regardless of their beliefs, right? The majority of people are out there trying to treat people right. And if you allow anybody to change the way that you believe, feel, or treat others, you're allowing yourself to be governed by the minority.
I want to give you props because you said that thought and laid it out really well and cohesively. I kind of look at it a little bit different. I see it as in like taking ownership of your experience, you know,
Yeah.
and understanding that like my lens that I'm seeing it through is based on my experience and my emotional state right now,
That's definitely
you
an
know?
aspect of it for sure. I agree with that.
And so your habitual frequency is gonna really shape the outcome of the situation, because I think all this is really malleable, and you can really mold it into how you want it and chisel it out.
Yeah,
But because everyone has the ability to have good brought out of them or evil brought out of them,
for
and
sure.
it's oftentimes compelled by them reflecting what you're projecting at them. And so, like, for me, going back to that, like, being a man shit, is like understanding that I was actually like in a place where I decided at a certain point, and I can't really tell when it was, I I was hurt so bad that it was like, people can say like codependent natures and things like that, but really it's just taking the stance of like at a certain point becoming a victim, you know,
Yeah,
and like placing yourself in this role where you feel helpless. And it's reflective of course, other instances in your life where I felt that shit and didn't want to accept it, you know? And so it had to come like closer and closer and closer and closer to my heart in order for it to get to that point where I'm willing to actually like, now it can get to me in a way where I can't turn away from it, you
hmm
know? And that's some shit that like, when you've actually like really been um like when your soul feels violated, bro, that's where you learn your character, and
yeah,
if you can take ownership of that and just go, all right, maybe this person was straight up with me, and maybe they were more authentic and I was being inauthentic, in that I painted them with this shit that they weren't, to fit whatever narrative I was expecting out of the situation.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And like, it can be a lot to wrap your head around, and that's why I think time just reveals it. And if you look at it in terms of like frequency, right, you can't really be mad about it, especially if like this person has been in a difficult place in their own life. And like, I know in my case, she's been in way more difficult situations than me. So for her to even be the person that she is like, and for her to just be alive, I'm so grateful. Like, no matter what, I'm grateful that I met her,
yeah,
that I love her, like, so much that it's like, I guess just what can fuck you up is like there isn't something that I wouldn't do for that person, But I guess this is the determination of it, right? Can you respect somebody when they say something that's absolutely not what you like or want, you know?
hmm
And especially when you've given your all so many times over, it's like you're that level of invested, that's just some shit that you gotta like be a man about, and look at it like it's still not a loss, you know
yeah,
it's still a dub, and it's all love, figure out how to love your way through it, you know and keep it real with yourself about what you deserve too, and not bend on that shit, you know.
facts.
Because I realize I'm at this point where it's like there's a lot of things in my life. There's a lot of things in my life that I really never wanted to compromise on, that I would really fight for, you know, and fighting with yourself to surrender to what is, in order for what is meant to be to come about through it, you know. That's a motherfucker.
Yeah,
And that's why it's like showing up and doing this kind of shit is like, that to me is a superior strength, because I would never want someone to feel this shit and not know how to go through it, you know, or think that they're the only one. Because at the end of the day, bro, it matters in terms of your development, but the pain doesn't matter. It don't matter. It's just necessary. And it's a part of the experience. And you can't know what it means to actually give a fuck on that level, without the potentiality for that to happen, you know? And what you would do about it afterwards and like standing in that position, having to give up everything that you love
Yeah.
to become the person that you're supposed to become. That's the fucking test. That's the test. And that's like why, like when I'm in the gym, I just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's the closest thing to like an active prayer that I've ever found is like you're just elsewhere, and you just are just looking at yourself like coaching myself, out of body experience almost like you got one more. No, you got this. Let's see what we can do, you know, talking yourself through it, you know? And it's very similar to like, I don't know if you've ever fought someone who's big as fuck, bro. But like when you have to, like it's not a fucking option,
Yeah.
you know? You're like, all right. And all of a sudden the words just stop. And it's like you're outside of yourself, just like, oh, navigating the situation and just staying down with your instinct. And sometimes it's like that voice comes in really quick and it's like pop that jab, fake that jab, overhand right. Like just different little random shit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it comes in like this split second. But that's like one of the only other things that I know that's as close to um is like real dangerous moments like that. It's like when that fucking static comes in, it feels like all the air was like, hold the fuck on. Like some shit's going down,
Yeah.
That's when that intuition comes through so clear.
I wanted to go back to something you said about how everyone has the capacity for good and evil, and what thought came to my head was in the Netflix series now on Disney Plus, the uh, had to plug it now on Disney. Anyways, uh, Daredevil and the Punisher.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they had a crossover at one point where the Daredevil and Punisher were fighting or working together. And Daredevil was keeping the Punisher from killing people because that's what the Punisher does. And they were having this argument about what was right and what was wrong and who was in the moral high ground, right? And the Punisher says, "You're one bad day from becoming me." And that's something that reminded, like, that saying itself is something that you reminded me of. And it's something that I remember from time to time, is like, you're one bad day from becoming somebody that hurt you, right? But can you bounce back and keep yourself from becoming what hurt you to begin with?
Mm.
Right? And so it's like you don't want to become that, because otherwise you become like, you start hurting people that you otherwise would have cared about before that.
Oh,
What?
yeah, I can just mute.
Oh, okay. Got a truck going by. But anyways, uh yeah, so that's my point. Is like, think about who you and you already said this, think about who you want to be. And if you allow someone to change your direction of who you want to be, like let's say, like for real, like someone who plays women, right? Someone who goes to a bar and just fucking essentially treats them like shit and just uses them for what he wants. That dude is probably been heartbroken by the girl that he fucking loved the most, right? And now he's doing what he's doing because he feels like that's what he needs to do. But that's not who he wants to be. He wants to be the guy that has his girl, the girl that he loves the most, but he lost her. She treated him like shit, and now he became what she made him to be. Right? And now down the road, when he's gone through all this shit and his name and his reputation is terrible, he's going to have a hard time finding a genuine, authentic woman to be with him. And so when you allow someone to make you someone else that you don't want to be, think about the long term, right? Think about your end point. What are you going to regret 10, 20, 50 years down the line? Think about like the deathbed. What is going to mean the most to you at the end of your life? Right? Are you happy because of the people that you helped? Are you happy because you never found what you wanted, but you treated all these people like shit? No, you're going to be happy based off the things that you did that brought you the most meaning and fulfilled your sense of purpose.
People forget how fucking short life can be.
It can be short if you think about it being short. But like,
well, I'm saying motherfucker can die today.
Oh yeah,
you know,
for real.
like, and
I think that all the time. I'm like, dude, like that's crazy to think about. Like, and I think about that too. It's like, what's the last thing I'm gonna say to someone if I died tomorrow? Right? I don't want them to fucking hate me. You know, I don't want them to feel. I don't want them to think that I hate them. If I die tomorrow, like what? All the unsaid shit.
That's the real shit, bro. I'm telling you, that's that shit that like that you can't take back.
You can't.
You know what I mean? Like where you have to forgive yourself and truly see yourself. Like a lot of people don't really understand what I'm saying from like you can know it in like a book way, like in theory, right? Of like people have the capacity for great good and great evil. When you've actually done some fucked up shit and you've been around fucked up shit, you know, it and you've been subject to some shit like, yo, that's different. You know? Like when you've actually had to help a mother grieve over her son.
Yeah.
Like when you wake up your best friend's dead, when you wake up your dad's dead, like that kind of shit. Like, oh, hey man, people you love dearly, dearly being on drugs and shit. When you've had to save people's lives, you know, and experience like all types of shit like that, bro. It gives life a different texture and meaning when somebody says that they fucking love you. You know?
Yeah.
Like it means that much more when someone has been through all that and still wholeheartedly decides to be a good person. You know? Like, and so I guess I've just, especially for being so young, man, I've experienced a lot of fucking shit. You know, that's made me look at life and be like, oh, some people just don't get it. Like they haven't gotten it yet. And some people's pain thresholds are so fucking high, bro. that
Yeah.
it's like they're so fucking stubborn, you know, and they're so filled on that negative frequency that they haven't figured out how fucking easy and relieving it is for this quantum leap feeling of being in the fucking whole. It's like a whole other half of the universe, you know, because you couldn't see all this good shit that was really
Yeah.
here for you. And it's like, I wonder how many people go through their lives and they fucking die, and it's like, yo, you didn't even fucking know that X, Y, and Z was right there for you, you know?
Yeah.
And I've just had to look at a lot of times when, in retrospect, people were there for me and I took advantage of that situation or mishandled people, you know, misrepresented myself, you know, which hurts myself, you know, first and foremost, and the people that I love. Like, and I just hold myself accountable to that shit because I don't forget it,
Yeah.
you know? And so, and I'm one of those people that, like, interestingly enough, though, because of my brain injury, I live uh, in a state where oftentimes I don't have words in my head. Like when I say I'm observing, like I'm truly observant in that I have quiet, no narration running through my brain while I'm going through some shit, and then a thought will pop in.
Yeah.
Versus when I'm in a negative state, it's like my mind, I can't turn it off. It's just me talking and narrating the whole time. You know, me,
That's how
all
I
these
am.
different things. You
Yeah.
know, and I fester like a motherfucker, bro. I'll marinate on some shit, and that's why, like, that's I'm learning new levels of forgiveness, bro. And it's like you think you mastered this shit, you know, like, but I life is this like you have to walk tall outwardly and inwardly, be like talking so fucking real that it's like tears are like coming down, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to bring yourself to fucking tears to be that level of like open, you know, to really transcend and grow from the experiences that you go through. You know, and I guess that's where it's like I'm not trying to just be headstrong to get through it, you know, what I'm experiencing right now, and I don't even know what the totality of it is. You know, all I know is that having my consistency in my schedule makes pain somewhat irrelevant, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm looking at like what the purpose of it is, and I know that there's a purpose of it, and I know that the end goal purpose is all that fucking shit that I want that I'm working towards, you know. And it's like I just got to take all that stuff and put it out of my mind so I can have my focus, you know, and really try and do it. But I want to do it with an open heart,
Yeah.
you know, with a heart full of love, and not have that inherent anger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just makes me wonder because, like, that's how I was when I was younger, really, like, before I got Christ in my life and I really wanted that Holy Ghost, or I had a different kind of consciousness. And so it makes me really wonder, like, and kind of see, like, is that me? And, like, this other, this is actually like Christ consciousness functioning in me and through me, you know? And I'm really experiencing like, oh, so this is the difference between me and the higher consciousness acting through me. Like that's all that I can say is like it's a different feeling of like in my spirit of that, you know? Um and so it makes me feel dissociative sometimes, you know? Because I'm really trying to be present, really trying to observe it, but also be a part of it, and then not skate accountability. And it's like I know the thought on textbook is up here, but my fucking feeling about it is like down here, you know?
Do you ever feel like you're trying too hard to analyze yourself, that it's holding you back from really being able to like find or process the things that you're going through. Cause like I
Some
know like for me, the harder I think about some things, the less progress I make on them. But then when I
mm,
leave it alone for a little bit and I give myself time, then boom, a random thought will come into my head and I'm able to fucking get it done. Right?
it's a hard call because I 1,000% agree with you that like taking your mind off of a problem that's too much for you to solve right now usually brings about that solution that you're looking for.
The disconnect a little
Or,
bit. Yeah.
yeah, or a new insight. But I also think there's a level of like scrutiny that good people have. Like everyone should have that. Like your keep it real meter should not be fucked up. Like right and wrong, right is right and wrong is wrong. You
Yeah.
know, whether you did right or wrong is a whole different thing, and that's for you to look back at. Like my heart was here. This is the thoughts I was thinking, and not skate it, but actually debunk that to move beyond it. But I think in terms of observing, it's more like a keen eye on righteousness, you know? Because if you don't have that and like that that one fucked up day happens, that one interaction happens where you're like, "Oh, now I break." And you can throw it all out the fucking window. And it's different too. Like when you walk around carrying a gun, bro, you gotta be you don't have the excuse of being hot headed like that, you know?
Yeah.
Like you have to actually like keep that shit in check because people don't like to admit it, but everyone has fucked up days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like when you have the capacity to kill somebody and like you're actually somebody who like their temperament on default setting is like fuck people up when shit goes wrong.
Yeah.
Like you have to be extra cautious about things like that.
It's
You
an
know?
extra level of accountability, self-awareness, and self-control all in one. And
Yeah,
like
and it
I'm
really
I'm I'm the exact opposite of I'm going to fuck you up if I'm angry. Like I'm probably just going to walk away from you. Like and so like I'm the complete opposite whereas like I would probably have a hard time if I was to carry a gun out around. I would have a hard time pulling it out. Like that would have to be the absolute last fucking thing I did. And that's just a natural thing. Like it would have to be so bad for me to pull it
well,
out.
that's because your righteousness meter is in check, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that mine isn't, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm in that same boat at this point where it's like, bro, I just want to love, you
Yeah, for
know?
real. Like that's all.
Like
Dude, I was going to say this
there's so
earlier.
much, yeah.
Um I don't remember what sparked the thought, but you saying you just want to love was a thought that I had earlier was that I'm just wanting to love people, whether it's
Hmm.
romantically, platonically, family, friends, girlfriend. I don't care. I just want to love people because that's genuinely how you build your community, your friend group, the people that are around you that you find the most support with is
Hmm.
fucking love. And if you love people genuinely and for who they are, they're going to love you back. Like and they'll be there for you for real.
Yeah.
And it's fucking
And I
awesome.
guess, yeah, that's just where I'm at is like, and I decided this a long time ago, like, is I know that's like, I think that's everyone's default setting before they've been exposed to some shit
Yeah.
that they shouldn't have been, right? But I think having been exposed to that. And just some people, it's in your nature, you know? Like I was always a more physical person, but I feel like, and I'm so grateful that I went through what I went through, like during like public school and, just in my neighborhood and shit like that. So that way, when I got out of school, I didn't wind up, in the penitentiary and shit.
Yeah.
Because when I was in like high school, that was always the way that I just kind of thought my life was kind of, I was either going to make it absolutely as far as I was talking about, or I would wind up going to like the pen or something.
Yeah,
And
like it's those
it,
extremes that you were talking about. It was either you're gonna be fucking super successful or super not.
and it was just one of those things where it was like that shit was almost kind of normal, like,
Yeah,
and it wasn't out of my realm of conception because, like my dad worked in a prison. Obviously, he told me all the like, don't go there. These are all the like
yeah,
different, because my dad had to deal with like when someone gets stabbed in the eye with a pencil or hit in the face with a fucking soap bar, and a sock, like all this kind of shit. Like my dad's seen people's eyeballs falling out of their head and all kinds of crazy shit, you know? Um, and I got busted up a lot in my life. So I had to like, I've had my head busted open, my eyes, my eyelid, all kinds of shit. So I guess like I saw enough of that shit like young enough, and went through it myself that it was like in a strange way violence wasn't like an abnormal thing.
yeah. It
You know,
became
and I
normal.
thought, yeah, like I thought that was just what you were supposed to do. And I feel like there's a level of like respect in our society that violence would have kept in check, but I think we're getting to a point where it's like there's a better way, and the better way is like holding people accountable to themselves by speaking to them in such a way where it's like I fucking see you. Like
Yeah,
I was at the gym the other day and there was an old dude there and like not the biggest like fucking crime against humanity, but like he takes a piss and goes to walk right out of the bathroom and I'm like, hey, he just keeps walking and I see him and I walk up to him and I'm like, hey bro, look, not to be in your business, but we all work out in here. And be fucking pissing and not washing your fucking hands. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like what the fuck? You know?
What did
And
he
it's like
do?
when you do that, he was like, I use the hand sanitizer. And I was like, this guy's fucking 87, he doesn't fucking get it.
Yeah,
He doesn't fucking get it. You know? I'm like, hey dude, look, I see you.
yeah,
You know? And it's just like this weird thing where it's like, what are you gonna do? You get to this point though, where it's like violence, not an acceptable answer for society. Slapping the shit out of somebody in that moment feels like a really good option. You know what I mean?
yeah. I think
Like
like there. This goes
that
back to your
motherfucker lost
whole.
his hands every fucking time if he got smacked the fuck up for it. And that's what I'm talking about is like learning to have like understanding that those repercussions fucking happen. And then people go through society not experiencing any kind of fucking violence, have this totally fucking skewed sense of life, you know? And
Yeah,
maybe it's more beautiful, but there's a level of that ignorance that's like not fucking normal. I don't really think it's normal, you know?
it's not normal based on history.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because throughout all of time, even fucking up until probably like the late 1800s, it was perfectly okay for you to be like, I challenge you to a duel. You disrespected me, and now we're gonna back to back, and we're gonna walk 20 paces and fucking shoot at each other. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody had a little bit more decency towards each other because they could fucking lawfully challenge to kill each other. Right? So it's a little different nowadays where it's like you said, it's not really socially acceptable to slap somebody for not washing their hands. But I think that comes down to your level of discernment. Is it socially acceptable? Probably not. Is it better for society? Probably. Right?
And
And
it's
so
like the motherfucker's not gonna die from it.
no. And so what it comes down to is like what you were saying before is about discernment. In this situation, what's more important? Me looking like an asshole for slapping an 80-year-old man, or this 80-year-old man who's probably going to die soon washing his hands? Which one's more
Yeah,
important?
it was one of those I have to walk away
It's like,
moments,
bitch, I'm
bro.
going to get you in 5 years. You just wait. That's my thought. It's like you're gone, bro. like I'm going to still
It's
be
one of those
kicking.
things that there's a part of me that, like, bro, I was just like, this is a stupid person right now.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm dealing with a stupid person right now.
He's an old
And
man.
yeah, like it's just because you made it to be old doesn't mean you're a fucking smart dude, though.
Oh
You know what I
no.
mean? He's
Not
old.
at all.
He's an old dude, but he says some dumb shit. And to me, it's like it's about the decency of like being considerate,
Yeah.
you know, and taking that additional step. Like if you want to fucking sanitize your hands and wash your motherfucking hands, bro. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I just look at it like, hey, I chalk that one up to a I gotta walk away situation. I don't have the social skills to fucking debunk this in
Yeah.
my current emotional state. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, um, I think that was like a learning lesson where like maybe I should have pursued it more from there, you know, but not in a physical way, you know, because I don't think that's always how people learn,
No.
but it's kind of how people learn. You
It's
know, and people don't want to fucking say it. Monkey see, monkey do. It's kind of how you fucking learn.
yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
I've told a lot of people this and I've said it on the podcast. A lot of people say stupid shit because they don't know what it's like to be hit for saying stupid shit. And I learned growing up, first of all, the feeling that you get from being backhanded by your mother for saying something dumb is fucking un it is you can't reconstruct that feeling in any other situation. Like you can't like the feeling of being in the back seat, you saying something and your mom just reaching back and bopping you in the fucking mouth. Saying nothing else, just fucking reaching back and slapping you. That you can't recreate that feeling.
Yeah.
And so I think that, or even like another human, like another person in like a general situation, right? Like let's say that fucking dude, like he said something and you slap the shit out of him, right? He will never be able to recreate that feeling of being slapped in the gym, in the bathroom by a man with clean hands. But he'll never be able to recreate that, and he'll always remember because the feelings you can't recreate are the easiest ones to remember. Like love, for
Mm.
example, right? These things that you can't recreate on your own are the things that you remember the most. So like me getting backhanded by my mom, her with her ring hand, by the way, fucking sucked. And I remember that shit. And so I know not to say stupid shit because I remember that feeling. I can't remember I can't recreate that feeling because it's the intensity of it in the moment is something different. But I know what the feeling feels like and I don't want to feel that again. So being smart about how I approach people and how I say things so that I don't have to get fucking slapped is it's something that you have to learn through trial by error. And if you're
Well,
never
it's
slapped, you're never gonna learn that.
I'm I'm at the point where it's like there's a level of like internal accountability that I realize like I can't shake, you know?
Yeah.
Like I consider it like I'm if I'm just in a bad space and even like that's still a wave of energy, you know, that anyone that encounters me has to deal with and that I'm projecting into the universe because like this whole world is all like effect, you know? The inner world is all the cause, you
Yeah.
know? And so I try to like and lately what's really been helping me the most is exercise um and like really talking through your spirit to God. Like you can call it God or not, higher intelligence, whatever you want to call it, but like bro, there's a sensation that I get when I'm talking to Jesus that's like I know like that's not me, you know? And the level of like seeing and like wholeness I can feel and like true presence. I feel like it's like I'm holding myself back and when I make this connection it's like I'm truly up to date with the goodness that has been created through this experience right now although I'm not all the way through it. Like I know it feels bad but it's good. And that talking about a feeling you can't recreate, like that's kind of like I live for that. And every day that I wake up now, it's like when I'm able to go to the gym, just to experience that, like just having that in my life is so beneficial to me. It's such a saving grace for me in terms of like physical activity, something I can put out that's like progressive. Progress is so necessary, that I look at the world and it's like, that's why I want to help people progress, you know,
Mhm.
because these experiences are valuable. They're the most valuable thing in the world because it's what you take with you when you're gone. It's that conscious expansion. Whatever your journey was up until now, you know, and some people don't get it later. Sometimes, like when it's your number, bro, it's your number, you know, and I guess now I'm just kind of looking at like being committed to being the best human being that I can be.
Full stop. Facts. I think that's what everyone needs to strive for. Being the best you can be, no matter what.
hmm Even when you don't want to. Because there's times when that shit, quick, look, bad shit seems to have a quick payoff, but it's also got a horrible downside. Good shit doesn't seem to pay off right away,
Hmm.
but it has a hell of an upside. And yo, that's from John Shrek McPhee, Sheriff of Baghdad himself. So you can take that from the man who was sent after Osama bin Laden himself.
Boom.
I don't know that we can end this in a better way than that. So,
Me neither.
with it, all the love, peace, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us. We love. I hope you learned something.
Peace.